Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains episode review. This time I will be reviewing episode 69 of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains, Windy VS Revolver, Part 1. Now, me and a few friends did live react to this episode. If you want to see our live reaction, I will have that linked down below in the description. But yeah, let's get right into it. So episode 69, what did I think about it? I really enjoyed it. I think it's always very hard to follow up an episode like 68. We've seen with VRains, and I think we've seen with a lot of Yu-Gi-Ohs, some episodes that are just, at least in my opinion, amazing. And plot episodes are really to hype up the duel, and so has the first part of the duel lived up to the hype that 68 brought? Although I think 68 was one of those episodes that hyped up a lot more than just the immediate Revolver vs. Windy duel. I think it hyped up the whole war. I think it showed us a clear antagonist group, but at the same time, the Knights of Hanoi are no angels, and Revolver makes it perfectly clear to Playmaker and I that he did not come here to save them. He came here for one purpose, and one purpose only, the only purpose that he feels he has in his life right now, which is to see through his father, Dr. Kogami's wishes, and annihilate the Ignis. So he begins his duel against Windy. Now, it takes quite a bit of time for this duel to actually begin. It takes half the episode. The duel does not start until after the halfway point in this episode, and I felt that the knights, the other knights, not including Revolver, Spectre, Faust, Vira, and Gnome, I wish they did a little more. It was cool seeing them, annihilate all of the echoes that Windy created, and absolutely when we see Soulburner go into the VRains and go into the Cyberse, the Cyberse world is completely destroyed because of the Knights. So I think that was really, really cool, but at the same time, I would have liked to see, even if it was just Spectre, one of the Knights in Revolver's corner, very similar to how Lightning was in Windy's corner, and if it was Spectre, maybe he could have even had some banter with Playmaker, since obviously, he's had run-ins with Playmaker in the past in Season 1. We might still get that in 71. Now that Soulburner is in Link VRains, is in this world looking for Playmaker, it would be very interesting if he actually runs into the Knights of Hanoi and maybe has to duel one of the Knights of Hanoi, maybe Soulburner versus Spectre. That would be a pretty intriguing duel, since Soulburner, I think, knows about the Knights from reading all of the articles while Season 1 was going on, but I'm 99% sure Soulburner has never had an actual run-in with the Knights of Hanoi. Flame probably has not either, besides the whole, first episode Cyberse world being destroyed moment. So that would be really interesting to see some Soulburner dialogue with the Knights of Hanoi, but whether we will get that or not too sure. The transformation scene with Soulburner going into the VRains, Homura, I should say, going into the VRains, Kusanagi gives him a program and says, there might be a program on here that can stop the Ignis, which probably is a foreshadow to how Playmaker and I will be saved, because even I says in this episode, and Playmaker agrees with him, that no matter the outcome of the duel, he's not sure if any of them, if Revolver or Windy are going to let I free or Playmaker free, and Playmaker says most likely not. Most likely, no matter who wins, we're not going to be freed. So Soulburner is going to have to be the knight in shining armor, most likely, unless Revolver lets Playmaker and I out because maybe he wants to exterminate I, but I don't really see that happening. So I think that probably will be the way that these guys, Playmaker and I, get out of the situation, through Soulburner. The transformation scene, I thought it was cool, but at the same time, it was an exact replica. I mean, motion for motion replica of Yusaku to Playmaker. So I felt it was maybe a little unnecessary, a little time consuming when we just wanted to see the duel start. But the very beginning, before the duel begins, the banter, I shouldn't say the banter, the dialogue between Playmaker and Revolver was amazing. Playmaker finally showing some pretty good development in terms of he's moved on from his hatred and revenge, and he's taken a step back and realized that you can't take a step forward if your ideals and motivations are all because of revenge and you are stuck with a lot of hatred. And Revolver he's not going to be able to convince Revolver, at least not right now, that that's the case. And Revolver even kind of laughs at him at one point. He's like, Playmaker, a persona that was created purely out of hatred to destroy the Knights of Hanoi, to destroy his group. And Revolver's not wrong. The difference is Playmaker has at least gotten over that hatred for the time being. He's not stuck in hatred and anger anymore. And that's good for him, because even from personal experience, I've learned very hard to move on from things when you are doing them in hatred and anger. Usually it just creates more pain and suffering for you. And I think Revolver probably will learn that the hard way in this case. So I think the dialogue between those two was very good, and it was much less antagonist-protagonist as we maybe saw in Season 1, and I felt it was a lot more protagonist versus rival, right? Because if you had to say, Dylan, who is the Season 1 antagonist, you have to say Revolver. Revolver absolutely was the Season 1 antagonist, but now, and for the rest of the show, because also if you asked me, though, who was the rival in Season 1, I still would have said Revolver. Season 1 was kind of unique for Yugioh, where the rival was also the main antagonist. I mean, Zexal kind of did it with Shark, even though Shark and Kaido were kind of both Yuma's rivals. I think more people would probably say Kaito was the rival, but you don't really see that too often. Like, Reiji in Arc 5 was never the antagonist of an arc. Jack was maybe the antagonist of the very first season, so maybe they kind of did that similarly in 5Ds, even though that definitely did not last as long as Revolver's antagonist role did in this show. And then Manjome, Hellkaiser in GX, and Seto Kaiba in Duel Monsters. I'd never say any of them were the antagonists, but the dialogue between Revolver, I almost said Varys, Revolver and Playmaker in this episode was a lot more rival protagonist, like a lot more Yugi and Kaiba like. In fact, there were very similar things that Playmaker was saying to Revolver that Yugi said to Kaiba towards the end of their Battle City duel, about you cannot take a step forward when you are engulfed in hatred. So that was, I thought, very interesting and very well done. As for the duel itself, thought the dueling action was good. I thought the banter, this is the word, banter for Windy and Revolver's dialogue was amazing. Windy would say something, Revolver would say the same exact thing but rephrase it a little bit as an insult. Then Revolver would say something, and then Windy would say it sarcastically and rephrase it as an insult towards Revolver. And in this episode, it ends with Windy at 4,000 life points unscathed. It ends with Revolver at only 300 life points. But the very last laugh in terms of banter is gotten by Revolver, who says, clearly you have awfully miscalculated how this duel is going to play out. Windy is obviously surprised about that, because to that point, not going to lie, Windy completely dominated Revolver, but Revolver probably has something up his sleeve. And he's an amazing final line. He says, it's time for me to reprogram a defective AI. And that's how it ends. And episode 70 is titled Tuning Bullets. I think it's safe to say, I'm sure most people have seen, that we most likely are going to see a synchro monster from Revolver, which is freaking awesome. Cannot wait for that. Revolver has a Varalode Dragon in his grave, which is a Link 4, so most likely that will be the card that he is going to equip to Varalode Savage Dragon. So Varalode Savage Dragon is going to get 4 counters. It's going to get 4,500 attack right off the... It's going to be a monster. It's going to be a beast, and I cannot wait for that. So really excited to see how this duel concludes. And, even though Revolver is right now losing pretty heavily, Windy used Revolver's own trap, Magic Cylinder. Let's talk about that for a second. Revolver used Mirror Force. He now used Magic Cylinder in this episode. 2 trap cards that were used by Yugimoto, and 2 trap cards that are identified by Playmaker as, and I believe by as very strong, almost like legendary cards. So clearly there is some acknowledgement here that these are not just ordinary, run-of-the-mill, original OG trap cards. There is more there, and I feel like they're very close to saying, oh my god, these cards were used by a legendary duelist. Like, they're so close to saying something like that, and if they say something like that, it would be one of the most awesome canon references any of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Spin-offs have done. And I hope that we do learn a little more about how Revolver got these cards. I hope we learn a little more about how Revolver got this Synchro Monster, because VRains has really teased us when it comes to canon. Of course, Synchro showing up makes it very hard to put it on a timeline, at least for me. I thought I kind of had an idea where it would belonged on a timeline, not anymore. I really have to reevaluate things. But, like, they're very close. I don't know if anyone else kind of gets that vibe to, like, saying there's a connection between the original Yu-Gi-Oh characters and Revolver. And, you know, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but it was really cool to see Magic Cylinder back. Revolver tried to use it on Windy. This whole episode, the whole duel basically, was about who can use Magic Cylinder more effectively. Windy actually is able to use it, and Revolver takes 3,000 points of damage. He takes his own dragon's direct attack, and actually, I don't think Varalo Dragon is in the graveyard yet. I don't think Varalo Dragon was destroyed, but I imagine maybe he will use it to tune Varalode Savage Dragon, and then it'll be in the graveyard, because Magic Cylinder, I don't believe, destroys the monster. Revolver took that huge blow of damage, 3,000 life points, but I don't think he's lost Varalode Dragon yet. So it'll be interesting. My prediction going forward, I think Revolver will win this duel. I really do, and I think then Lightning will use some program to get him and Windy out of harm's way. I think Soulburner will show up at the time. He'll quickly use the program to get Playmaker and I out of the way, and then Revolver will just log out of Link VRains. But then again, you know, then it feels like an empty win for Revolver. I mean, it's a huge win for Revolver, but he didn't accomplish anything. You know, he didn't, maybe he sent a message to the Ignis, but he didn't. He'll feel very, very underwhelmed if it plays out that way, because he doesn't get to destroy any of the Ignis. He doesn't get to capture Playmaker or I. Maybe he'll take Windy, and maybe Lightning will be unscathed, and Revolver will have Windy. And if Windy most likely is not Spectre's Ignis, so that's probably Earth. So no, it won't be like Windy will be forcibly used by Spectre. I have no idea how it's going to play out, and so I am so intrigued to see where the show is going to go from here. But guys, please let me know all of your predictions about how this duel is going to conclude, and let me know your thoughts on this episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains. Sorry if I am sounding a little out of it. I literally woke up like 5 minutes ago, had to record this very quickly, so I do apologize if I seemed a little tired, but hopefully I still brought the same level of enthusiasm that I always try to bring. Special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons Alexa Baker, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, and James Rose, and to my Diamond tier patron Bouldergeist, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons Syn Cloud and Odd Eyes Vaughn. Huge thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Cannot tell you how much that helps me out, and a huge thank you to everyone who just watches my videos on YouTube, because without you guys, I would not be here. So again, thank you so much for watching my review of episode 69. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I will talk to you in the comments below, and I hope you have an amazing day.